okay, I realize I'm afraid of this. And they stop asking, how can I not be afraid? And they ask the much more powerful question that we should all ask, and that is, am I willing to be afraid? So if we can do that in our own lives, say, are you willing to be afraid? And recognize, of course, I'm afraid, but this is even more important. This is how I want to be fulfilled.
Stories help us make sense of the world. We have with us today a guest who has helped shape some of our favorite cinematic stories. We're going to learn how the art of storytelling can help transform our lives. Please help me welcome Michael Hauge. Michael, welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You know, Michael, when my producers said that you were willing to come onto this show, I have to tell you, I got so excited because I have read your books. I have used your books to craft story. One of my hobbies is novel writing. And to be able to sit down and have this conversation with you is such a fun experience for me.
Well, I wasn't just willing, I was eager to do this.
Were you really?
Well, yeah. First of all, I know you're a story lover, and any chance to talk about stories, I absolutely love. So,
now what we're going to talk about is the hero's journey today. When I first encountered this hero's journey, it was because, like many people, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, the Star Wars franchise. And I had learned how George Lucas came up with this incredible story that touched so many hearts and minds around the world that he utilized Joseph Campbell's work on The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And so immediately I started, delving into that world of storycraft. You're a master of understanding the hero's journey. In fact, so many people in Hollywood call you and say, Michael, will you come in and look at our screenplay, look at our story and tell us, what do we need? What are we missing? What's that experience been like?
Well, it's been my whole career, so it's been terrific. It really boils down to some very simple components. And my whole career has been about helping people create more emotionally compelling stories, whether it's for the screen or if it's public speakers or entrepreneurs or business leaders or whatever. It's always designed to create an emotional experience for the audience or the reader. Yeah. And what he does in all of the hero's journey and all of that approach does is it ensures that those stories are going to have that kind of emotional impact that can actually change people's lives when they hear the story or watch it.
Let's unpack it. What is this hero's journey? How would you describe it?
When I work with writers or storytellers and so on, what I want to convey is that those elements of the hero's journey can be reduced to actually something even simpler. And you and everyone who's seen movies or read novels or whatever sees these basic components again and again and again because they have over the centuries shown to be that powerful at affecting people and eliciting emotion in people. Yeah. And basically it's this: any movie you see or any Hollywood movie for certain, it always starts with a hero. And by hero, we don't necessarily mean someone who's heroic. It's just an everyday person who may become heroic during the story. Everyday person living their everyday life, what Joseph Campbell called the ordinary world. Yeah. And then, and in some way they're stuck. They're either having a tough time, or maybe they think everything's just fine, but they aren't really living fully. They haven't achieved their fulfillment in their life. Yeah. And then something happens, a crisis. Sometimes it's something good, usually something bad, but it's a tipping point. And now they have to figure out, what am I going to do about this obstacle I face? And the reason the story has to have that element is because if you want to create emotion with a story, conflict is what creates the emotion. If you think about your favorite movie, it might have lots of other good elements, fun and funny and romantic or whatever it might be, but the moments you usually remember most are the ones where the hero's really up against it, or where the hero succeeds because they've just overcome some huge obstacle.
Humanity tries to avoid conflict. We don't like conflict. We have all these different ways that we avoid it. But in writing, I've heard it said, don't be nice to your protagonist.
No.
Be mean, throw them in the midst of the worst conflict you possibly can. Why is that something that resonates with the viewer, the reader?
You're right. We all want to avoid the conflicts we face, but we all have to face them.
Yeah.
Also, as a storyteller, you want to create as much conflict as you can, but you also, when you're telling a story, when I'm working with filmmakers or screenwriters, and they want that to be a successful movie, they have to create empathy with that hero, between the audience and the hero. The audience has to identify and see themselves as that character.
Yeah.
That's the power of movies, is they reach us at our subconscious level. And to create empathy with a character, you give them more conflict. We feel sorry for them. We worry about them because they're going to lose their home or lose their true love or whatever it might be. Or they help other people, so we admire them. And that's how you create that connection. And then we're going to stay emotionally involved, because once we empathize, once our subconscious is locked in, we actually become that character. The beauty of movies and novels and so on is not that we observe what's happening on the screen, is that we're participating in it. We're the ones in Titanic who are falling in love with Jack. We're Luke Skywalker as he's trying to destroy the Death Star or whatever.
The model story is to have your character have to answer this call, go out, face all this conflict, all this challenge. What's the ultimate goal for the hero's journey?
Well, the way that a hero achieves a goal is to first of all identify what is that finish line I need to cross. It's not about being a great Jedi Knight, it's about destroying the Death Star. That's what works in that movie. So there has to be that finish line so that we're leading up to that moment of victory where we've imagined what it looks like, and now we get to see that happen.
I want to spend the next segment talking to you about how does this relate with our own personal journey, but we got to take a break. And after the break, we'll continue our conversation with Michael as we help you understand your own hero's journey. We're back with Michael Hauge. Now, Michael, we can't help but take this monomyth, this hero's journey story, and apply it to life coaching. I mean, our own lives. You, the hero of your own story, crosses that threshold. Let's talk about the inner journey that the hero goes through.
Yeah, it's the transformation that the hero goes through from living in fear to living courageously. It's how does the hero find the courage to overcome all those obstacles, and how we can do that in our own lives. And the way that works in a story, just as in real life, is that along with whatever other obstacles we might face, whatever that crisis is, whatever that tipping point is, whatever that problem is that we were saddled with, usually the biggest thing standing between us or the hero of a story and success is our own fear. That deep down, no matter how much we might be willing to do the outside obstacles, it's the fear that's going to stop us. And the thing I like to look at is, how is the hero going to be able to overcome that fear? If you've seen the movie Good Will Hunting, okay, so here it is, ordinary guy who's stuck. I mean, here's a guy who's a genius, off the charts math genius. He's working as a custodian. For some reason, we don't quite know how. And then the problem is he gets in a fight and they say, you're either gonna go see a shrink or you're gonna go to jail. So he has to do this. But at the same time, he falls in love with the woman Skylar. To stay out of jail, he starts working with Sean, the Robin Williams character, and he falls in love with Skylar. But the problem is, Will, like all of us in the past, was wounded. He suffered a wound. Basically, he was abused by all his step-parents and foster parents, and he grew a belief. And the belief, which is always false, it might be logical, is, I must have deserved it. So now he wants his goal, but he's terrified of opening up to her because she might see that he's a horrible person, or else he wouldn't have been beaten when he was a kid. And so now the inner journey is how he comes to want that so badly. And with the help of what I call his reflection character, Sean, the Robin Williams character, that character helps him overcome that fear, be willing to be afraid, and go after her. So in the end, he crosses that threshold. He achieves what he wants.
That's the story of every successful person.
Yeah.
I mean, I interview all kinds, dozens of people who are highly successful in all different fields. And without fail, the story is,
Yes.
I had to overcome my fear.
Yes.
How do you find in these stories that the real issues of life, the very key points of the hero's journey are the key points to success in someone's life?
Well, nobody gets out of adolescence unwounded.
Yeah.
It could be you were embarrassed at the school play, or parents who had big expectations, or it could be something, a particular traumatic event that happened.
Yeah.
But we always have those wounds in the past, and we start believing that that's how the world works, that we must have deserved that we must be worthless, or we can't break the rules that we were given as a child, and so on.
Yeah.
So we recognize that, and my belief is when we see heroes in stories, or hear about them, or read about them, and we've subconsciously experienced their courage, we take that with us, and we can get inspired when we go home. But it's the same thing. It's what heroes always do, the same thing. First of all, they define the goal. Then they ask themselves, okay, I realize I'm afraid of this. And they stop asking, how can I not be afraid? And they ask the much more powerful question that we should all ask, and that is, am I willing to be afraid? So if we can do that in our own lives, say, are you willing to be afraid? And recognize, of course, I'm afraid, but this is even more important. This is how I want to be fulfilled. That's how we can cross the threshold.
Absolutely. In the hero's journey, at the very end,
Yeah.
it's called a couple of different things, mostly called the elixir.
Yes.
You end after going through this journey of overcoming obstacles, overcoming your own fear, slaying the dragon, the beast, whatever. You get this elixir and you
Yes.
come home. Some people call it the boon. You come home with this extra healing knowledge or potion.
Yeah, I love the idea of the elixir, because what it really means is that if you're a hero and you transform, you're going to transform the world around you. That's what the hero really does. That's the real value, is they come back. And if it mythically, or you go to knights of old, come back, they've battled the crusades, or they slayed the dragon, or rescued the damsel, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But they come back, and now the curse is lifted off the village. But you see that both in contemporary movies, but also in real life. Thinking back on the interviews you've given to your guests, they always end with the elixir. They're always urging people to contribute to something they've done, because they are there, and what they have been doing is changing the lives of the people around them. And that's how it's their courage, their ability to transform from fear to courage, that transforms the rest of us. That's the real value in following that model, I think.
Absolutely. We're going to transition in the next segment about how you've been working with corporate America utilizing the hero's journey here, but we got to take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk more about it. Stay right there. We're continuing our conversation with Michael Hauge. Now, Michael, these two books are amazing. I hope all the storytellers out there get their hands on these books. But this one specifically is what you're doing to help individuals in the corporate setting to understand how the hero's journey can help them be the best people in business that they can be. How is that connected?
Yeah. Well, for me, the connection comes, this happened, I think, about 15 years ago, because I was in a position, by then I had been working in Hollywood for some time, and I was doing fine and loving that, but I got a call from someone who was a top-level internet marketer. His name's Matt Basek. And he called me and he said, well, I'm an internet marketer, and I'm getting ready to do a webinar so that I can tell the story about how the IRS came after me and in order to sell my product. And I'd like to work with you on the story that I'm developing. And he said, I'd like to fly out from Georgia to come meet with you. And I said, well, the fact is, I don't know what internet marketing is. I don't know what a webinar is. I said, I've never really done what you're talking about. But I thought to myself, if he's willing to fly all the way out to LA from Georgia, there might be a penny or two.
You can learn from him.
I was, being very mercenary. So he came out and he started telling this story about how for no reason the IRS came after him. And I kept saying, well, I don't know exactly how this works in your world, but if that were a movie, here's what you should do. Here's how you introduce that character. Here's how you present him with that problem. And I start reeling off the things you're talking about that come from great storytelling from the hero's journey. And he seemed to love it. The webinar went well, and voluntarily, by the way, I was going to be on another podcast or something, and he voluntarily gave me a testimonial. He said, I think the story that Michael Hauge helped me develop has made me about $10 million over the years. And I learned two things. One was, I should have charged more.
Yeah, you're underpaid.
Yeah. I didn't say I'm smart. I just said I know how to tell stories. And the other thing I learned was this, and it was critical, and that is a story is a story is a story. You can go back to the hero's journey and all those myths. I can look at, thousands of movies and do everything that formed the foundation of my approach to story and so on. Mm-hmm. But it applies to everyone who's telling a story. Yeah. And at the core, and even those in your audience who are thinking, I'd like to tell a story. Perhaps you would have thought about writing a book about yourself or a novel like you've done. Mm-hmm. Or it might just be you want to create stories to leave as a legacy. Tell your kids what your life was like or some of the successes you had and the problems you overcame. Yeah. Or it might just be you want to be more involving to people when you're sitting across the table and you're telling them about your summer vacation, whatever it might be, but the same principles apply. And so I started then working with not just internet marketers, but entrepreneurs, public speakers, business leaders, because they all need to tell stories to do a couple things. One, to persuade people to take action. Yeah. To hire them or buy their product. But the other is, and all of the entrepreneurs I work with are like this, and you're no different in your situation, they want to change people's lives.
Yeah. In business, I mean, the old adage goes, facts tell, stories sell.
Yeah.
And if you want to sell anything, including selling yourself at an interview, a job interview, or, helping people understand what you are trying to help them with. The story is king.
Yeah.
It is everything.
And because stories, their primary goal is to create emotional involvement and connection. That connection is necessary because it gives people hearing your story in business the emotional experience of having worked with you.
Yeah.
And it's the same, even, there's a character I refer to as the reflection character. Joseph Campbell referred to it, he's either the wise old man or the guide sometimes. It's the helper. Yeah. And I thought about this in getting ready to come on this and looking at the episodes. That's who you are. You and all your co-hosts, you are functioning for your audience as reflection characters. Yeah. Saying, we want to help you do this, but we also want to urge you to allow yourself to be afraid, to ask yourself, what is the thing you don't want to do? And say, are you willing to take a shot and do that so that on the other side you can cross that threshold, so you can have that fulfillment that the heroes of movies get.
I think the interesting thing about the role of the reflector or the guide is that in the hero's journey, the guide only goes so far. You have to walk into this saying, I had fear, but I also had advice, and I had guidance, and I had someone who helped me to get to the place to where now it's time for me to go.
Because you've instilled so much desire for that, so much faith in what will lie on the other side, then they can do it on their own.
And that's the power of the story of life. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. It's just been an absolute delight. I really appreciate it.
Me too. It's every bit as much fun as I hoped.
Awesome. Don't go anywhere. I have some thoughts that can help you finally take that first step towards your own journey. Your life is a grand adventure, a hero's journey. Think about it. Every great story starts with a call to action, a moment where you feel that burning desire to break free from the ordinary and step into something extraordinary. That's your call to adventure, my friend. It's time to chase those dreams, confront those fears, and unleash your true potential. Now, here's the deal. As you embark on this journey, you're going to face challenges. And guess what? Those challenges are there to make you stronger, to shape you into the person you're destined to be. You'll encounter obstacles, but you'll also find mentors and allies who will stand by your side, guiding and supporting you. And then you'll hit that moment, the abyss, the dark night of the soul. This is where true transformation happens. It's where you confront your deepest fears and you rise above them. You shed your old skin and emerge more powerful, more focused, more unstoppable than ever. When you return from your journey, you come back with the boon, the gifts of wisdom, resilience, and power. These gifts aren't just for you. They're for everyone around you. You become a beacon of inspiration, lifting others up with your newfound strength. So embrace your hero's journey. Dive into it with everything you've got. It's in these moments of challenge and triumph that you discover who you really are and what you're truly capable of. Let's make it happen. I'm Roy Ice, reminding you your best life is possible and your tomorrow can be even better than today. So let's keep growing. Don't forget that you can find exclusive content on all of our guests. Check us out on social media using the handle Lifestyle with Roy.